Today's sponsor of the Vision Quest podcast is 920 Hat Company. Leather patch hats are in, and 920 Hat Company is here to hook you up with your very own custom hat. All patches are lasered on top-grade genuine leather and on popular brand hats like Richardson and FlexFit. Whether you're looking to show off your business or want a one-of-a-kind hat for yourself, 920 Hat Company can do it all. All the hats are handcrafted right in the Fox Valley, but worn across America. With over 500 hats in stock, they guarantee fast turnaround times. Honestly, Liam, looking at these hats, solid, right?
Yeah, they're pretty. I like them.
I like that patch itself.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, one-of-a-kind stuff. I know his name's Trevor. He does great work. He's actually gotten I think we got a knit hat coming.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, we got that coming. So we're really excited to have these guys on board as a sponsor. So get down to check them out on Facebook. I believe they're on Instagram. Check them out, man. They got the best hats, I think, in the Fox Valley, if not in the state.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So get down to 920 Hat Company on social media and check them out.
Sure.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I am joined here today on Vision Quest podcast. I am Brad, but I'm joined by I would name the best Greco coach that we have right now in the country. That's my opinion. I've known you for a while. But I guess, like I said, we were talking, I'm a little embarrassed of my Greco knowledge right now. So I really wanted to sit down with you. I don't want to waste too much of your time. And if it takes an hour, whatever, it takes a half hour, it's fine. So we talked a little bit about Greco and lineups, and we couldn't even name guys. So can we just start with the simple thing? Like, I'm looking up right now. I can't even, like, if I just Greco, World Greco Wrestling Team, it barely pulls anything up on Google here. Yeah. And so roster and events, U23 World Champion, that's Team USA. So I might get something because those guys, they got to show them. So I'm going to try and pull stuff up here. So I have World Team roster, Greco-Roman. We have Camden Russell. And these guys are all current, right? That's 2022 and U23 World. And you said U23s, you just mentioned this. U23 is basically seniors.
Seniors, yeah.
Okay.
It'd be like it's age division within seniors, yeah.
Okay.
So you got to be over 20. Well, you could be a junior and do it, but you got to be under 24. Yeah.
Okay. So then that's lighter guys. So we got Camden Russell, Philip Momi. We couldn't even name these guys. I think I brought up Benji Peak. I couldn't, like, how do I not remember Colton Schultz? Like, slam in the forehead.
Yeah.
So what kind of progress have we made as far as, and I know you guys push a lot, and you especially, and I like the number one, the passion you have, because you don't care what people, and I think a lot of people get you the wrong way. You're not out ripping other sports. That's not the point. There are rules and little things that each sport does that you may knock or whatever, but ultimately you're pushing so much for your sport and trying to make people understand. With Greco,
I think what happens is, I think, like, you could pick apart a lot of sports. You talk, like, between baseball and football and basketball, so they all involve balls, throwing them, catching them, some soccer balls and stuff like that.
Yep.
So, I mean, if a guy in soccer is saying, well, soccer is tougher than baseball, or baseball is tougher than football is tougher than whatever. And then you get the guy that the golf guy chimes in and they say, well, recent studies show the most athletic sport in the world is golf. And like, what? So you're like, you're walking around a golf course in green cut grass. So I think for us in Greco, I think, I do it because, like, everybody knows, like, you're not, if you have kids and you're like, hey, will you please clean your room? And they're like, yeah, it doesn't usually doesn't get done.
Yeah.
So you have to be a little more boisterous. And sometimes you're talking Greco, it's like, oh yeah, Greco's great, yeah.
Yep.
And then they kind of put you up to the side. And then when you start talking, like, well, this is the reason why I got to do Greco and all this, and this is why we think. And people in Greco have a hard time, because people in Greco are like, oh, they know it's harder. Oh, they know it's tough. They know it's whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, they think you're they think you guys are second-class citizens. They think you're JV wrestlers. They think you're the third-class citizen. They literally look down on you like peasants.
Yeah.
And like, oh no, like, no, they do. And so then I come along, I'm like, no, because I was into folk style freestyle world for an extremely long time.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, in the United States. And so that's like, no, you have. So I'll point out, like you said, in rules. Like, I'm like, well, in our sport, we can do this, this, and this. In your sport, you can't. And they're factual things that said in a certain way can be kind of real computational. And I like to do that for one, shock appeal, and two, it creates conversation. And then sometimes, like we have to admit in Greco, we have some stupid rules in Greco. Yeah. And then people, folks up admit the stupid rules and folks down freestyle as well. So that's why you do that. And a lot of times you create I believe a lot of times you create arguments. If you have an intelligent brain and get the reasoning, you can come to the argument on a common basis somewhere. Yep. You know, unless you're just a hothead, you can't argue with fun in it. You know, because I do like to argue this if it's raining outside, I'll say it's sunny outside. Yeah. You know, I'll just do that. You know, so that's a lot. You know.
I love you. That's what I love about you. It's just, and see, the thing is too, and like I said, I think a lot, just because people don't know you, that it comes across just differently. But then I think, like, I think there's sometimes where I had read something that you put in, I'm like, hey, wait a minute. But then I literally had to sit back and think, wait, it's Lucas. No. He's making a point here. Yeah. You got to sit back and listen. But go ahead.
Yeah. No, that's what it's for. I mean, because it's like, I was talking to Timmy Hands at Pipeline moved there today. We were doing an article, but we had some athletes over in Sweden. Yep. And we were talking, and I said, you know, there's certain people in certain places in wrestling that can say things and do things, and there's certain people in certain places in wrestling that cannot say those things. Right. And I think we were talking, like, you know, it's time for the people that have the ability to say things and make the common audience aware of situations that they're not aware of because those certain people don't have any repercussions. Yep. There's a lot of our people in wrestling world that can have some severe repercussions by shining the light of day on certain subjects in wrestling, in all kinds of wrestling, but we're talking about Greco-Roman mainly. Yep. And I think that's another thing to talk about. Is like, you know, the conversation doesn't get struck up by just being cordial. Yeah. It just doesn't. If it did, if being cordial worked, I mean, there's got to be some rules within the argument. I agree with this, but if just being, we all respect each other worked, well, we wouldn't be in the predicament we're in. I mean, it wasn't until I just said in our podcast was long ago. Yeah, people have to remember freestyle. Was it 2022 now? Yep. About 15 years ago was like not winning, not scoring a point. Yeah. You know, internationally. Yeah. And we're talking, we had amazing athletes wrestling at that time. Yep. And so it's like, what changed? And that's a whole other subject, what changed in freestyle. But at that time, Greco was doing good and freestyle was doing bad. And so things changed at that juncture. And it was immediate about face for freestyle and Greco. I mean, when I say immediate, I mean, you're talking like it probably takes a few years for any sports team to kind of turn things around. Yeah. You know? Yep. But it seems like it happened pretty fast. Yeah. You know?
So do you feel still like with Greco? So, I mean, just looking at this lineup, I mean, some of these guys they're pretty well known, actually. You know, you got Benji, you got Colton, you got Nicholas Boykin. I know of him very well. So do you feel that now, because NMU up in the UP is doing pretty good. Yep. Bissick doing great there. Do you feel that this is still an uphill battle for you guys, or do you feel like you're starting to make some ground?
I would say this, and I'll say it the right way. Yeah. Is I would say we were making ground. Yep. We were making really, really good ground. And I'm going to use an analogy here, and hopefully people can put the pieces together. Yep. Is that back in the 90s, the Packers hired this guy named Mike Holmgren. Yep. You know, and Mike Holmgren comes along, and they bring in this guy named Brett Favre, gets put in the game because like 5 guys were like, he's like the worst thing I've ever seen, and so nobody ever heard of him. Yep. So they throw him in there, and he does okay, but then he proceeds to throw the most interceptions I've ever seen. Right. You know, it's like, I mean, no matter how good he did, everybody still makes fun of the interceptions, no matter what you can. You know, it is. And so, if they would have went on the first couple of years of that and said, "Oh well, you keep putting this dude in, it's throwing these interceptions, we're going to fire you," they didn't. We wouldn't have had a Brett Favre. We wouldn't have had Aaron Rodgers. We probably would have had any. Honestly, that Mike Holmgren, Brett Favre era, kind of, no matter how you looked at it, built up such a program or just professional football, I don't know what you call a program.
Yep.
Is that it trickled down to today, and now we're seeing you're seeing the ramifications of coaching changes and probably things going right over the years.
Yep.
But it's been kind of downhill since then. We had a lot of success with Aaron Rodgers, but only one Super Bowl.
Yep.
I think it was one. I mean, but so that kind of built up the momentum for us to kind of. And you see it in high school wrestling, you see it in all kinds of sports and every level. Like you have this massive dynasty that trickles away over a course of time.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't a dying usually.
Yep.
And that's what kind of happened to Packers. So if we would have fired Mike Holmgren, would we have had an Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre or any kind of Super Bowls? Maybe. Probably not.
Yeah.
We have to ride the storm out. And just because we don't agree with people or just because we don't get along doesn't mean we don't get along, we go along.
Right.
It's like, so, and that's, so the marriage there, I think got right. Honestly, I just think we had a good thing going.
Mm-hmm.
We have Colton Schultz, Benji Peak, Austin Nutter.
Yeah.
We have No Man. We have D1 athletes. We have a lot of D1 athletes. Colton
you do.
Schultz, Braxton Ambos. I could name off so many D1 athletes in Greco that are doing good in the Division I programs, doing good in Greco-Roman programs. The Greco-Roman seems all right. And we have all full-time Greco-Roman wrestlers, same age.
Yep.
We really have a good diversity. We have a good young diversification of 2,300 athletes just breaking into the U23 senior circuit.
Yep.
And we had a coaching change, and we had some changes made drastically.
Yep.
Pretty much before the Super Bowl, the World Championships.
Yep.
Kind of a weird time to do things. And I'm not privy to all matters, so maybe there was something that I'm unaware of that required that to happen. So I think we had a good thing going, and in fact, I know everybody in Greco pretty well.
Yeah.
And I've talked to them, and I'm like, man, I thought we were doing okay here. I know we weren't winning, 6 Olympic titles last time and this time coming, but we had Tracy Hancock, Schultz. We had a lot of. In fact, we were losing for Greco standards in the United States. We were losing really good Greco-Roman wrestlers to Division I.
Yep.
When I say lose to Division I, and you went to Division I, you got turned into freestyle wrestlers because they knew they couldn't beat Colton Schultz. They knew they couldn't beat Robbie Smith. They knew they couldn't beat. They go out. I can't beat Austin Nutter. I can't. I'll wrestle Greco a little bit, but I'm gonna focus on freestyle.
So guys don't necessarily want to sacrifice. So guys don't necessarily want to sacrifice their body for the team, kind of thing. They were like, well, I'm not going to make it.
The folk style route, I was D1, and they're like, well, I'm probably not going to make. I can't beat Benji and Greco,
right.
So I'm also freestyle.
Okay.
Sure. So but there's probably more of that in the heavyweight division. We see a lot of really good Greco-Roman wrestlers in heavyweight.
Yeah.
Veer off. Like, there's this Cassiope from Iowa, really good at Greco, went to freestyle.
Yep.
Sam Stoll, really good in Greco before him, went to freestyle. In fact, I think he's quit wrestling after college. But so I'm not blaming college wrestling. I'm just saying we have such good Greco-Roman wrestlers. It's like, well, I have a chance at freestyle. We don't have a chance at Greco.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a good and bad problem at times. But that's kind of the depth we were building there, and we'll see what happens now. You have to. We still have goals at what I do with our athletes. You want to make the Olympics and win a medal. So no matter who's coaching, you want to get that done.
Yeah. Well, so with what you have, the program that you have, it's pretty. It seems I wouldn't say it's not. It's exclusive, but it's not exclusive. So what I mean by is that you only allow so many guys, right, per year in the program. Which I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. And then you really? It seems like you are there's one gentleman, I can't remember his name, out of California that you communicate with, another Greco guy. Does he do the same thing as you out there?
I don't know. I'll be honest with you, and I mean just straight on honest. If I'm wrong, so you should correct me.
Yep.
There's nobody in the United States doing what we're doing.
I didn't think so.
Like we were doing.
Right.
Like we have people like one of my great friends, Zach Dominguez. He runs a humongous club.
Yep.
They train a lot of Greco,
Nebraska.
but they're training a ton of folk stuff. They have about 4 guys that are senior level. U23s doing Greco, but they're not training year round. They're not training year round Greco with a freshman in high school.
Right.
Pinnacle, a lot of great Greco-Roman wrestlers. Again, they're not training year round Greco with anybody else in high school.
Okay.
I mean, so there's nobody in the United States that I'm aware of right now that is strictly now. Joe Betterman might be doing something. There's CWTC out of California. They might be kind of doing something that I'm not aware of, at like maybe individual basis.
Yep.
But like we strictly don't do any folk style. Now, I will say this, and people ask about this all the time. if I have an athlete, we have a few athletes, or we have quite a few athletes. We would have that wrestle in high school.
Yep.
Those athletes that train 5-6 days a week Greco-Roman with us, I'll bring in separately, and we'll work on their folk style transferable skills.
Oh.
So what I do see happening is the high school coaches just don't know how to transfer that Greco into folk style that smoothly.
Yep.
And so I won't change how they wrestle. I'll just help connect the two dots.
Sure. Yeah.
And in transitional properties, I'll say a twin one to underhook and Greco. And like we talk a lot of like why an underhook and freestyle and folk style is totally different than an underhook and Greco. How to make sure you do that, how to get headlocked, and so in the freestyle and folk style. But so we'll do that with our full-time Greco guys. They're in high school.
Yep.
And we give guys until 16. If they're at 16, they have to make a choice. You want to go full-time Greco? Great. If you don't, that's fine. We'll still train you, but you still start training 5 days a week Greco here.
Yeah.
Be your training. You can jump into freestyle practice with the girls. That's freestyle.
Yep.
But they're in high school. The only way we train folk style with them is if the boy Bob, athlete A from high school, Prairie du Chien,
yep,
Riverdale, Fenimore says, "Hey, can I come in and work on my handstand single?" Or I'm like, "Yeah." I go. Honestly, a lot of times it's me. It's like, "Hey, bro, come in, stay late. We got to work on your underhook, your handstand single. It's horrible.
Yeah,
you're doing it all wrong. You're trying to do Greco with the folk style. It's square peg round hole. It ain't working. We got to fix it. I'm gonna show you how to fix that.
Yep.
And so working with the girls in freestyle, a lot of times it's like, well, I'll have the girls show them guys like, this is how we're using, the way I believe wrestling should be.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is like transitional property of Greco and freestyle, into folk style, freestyle, whatever you want to call that. So we do that, but I don't think there's anybody in the United States doing what we're doing. In fact, I would say there's not. In fact, I don't know. In fact, I talk to these guys frequently, and they're like, they say what they say. They say what I said years ago.
Yep.
You can't. And they can't for one reason only. Well, for two reasons. One, they really enjoy folk style.
Yep.
And they have a lot of good athletes, and I don't want to lose those athletes, relationships. I totally understand that, respect that.
Yeah.
The other one is money, and I understand that, respect that too. But I got to a point in my life where I'll be honest with you, I was so unhappy going to practice. Like it was like,
yep.
We had over 100 athletes at one time. And we had these youth duels we were doing all this. And I really didn't believe in that stuff. I was like, man, I really believe in this. I just don't. And I had a lot of people in the club helping out, and they would have this big ideas. I'm like, it's not. And what happened was, no, I want to do this. And what I wanted to do is create world team members, win world medals, travel the world, and make all that stuff.
Yep.
And we were winning high school state titles a couple a year just because there's so many athletes. And I was like, but these athletes aren't transitioning into world-class athletes. They're not going from high school in Wisconsin, winning 2 state titles, and maybe we actually might have a Fort Tappers here, which is kind of cool. I know I bang on that Fort Tappers thing, but we'll have one. It's pretty cool.
Yep.
And I don't bring up about the SNR stuff we'll talk about later on, but is that they weren't transitioning from high school to college to world level. By the time they got out of college, like, man, I'm done.
Right.
I'm 25 or I'm going to go have a beer.
Get the piss kicked out of me, yeah.
I got this degree, I'm going to use it.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, yeah, I understand that. So for me, I was like, well, how can we change this? So then my daughter was getting out of gymnastics from a severe shoulder injury.
Okay.
And I said, and then I started researching what the Japanese were doing for the best in the world and all that. I'm like, this is totally how it should be.
Yeah.
So then I contacted people within her female community, and I knew how gymnastic was. So I was heavily involved in gymnastics with my sister.
Okay.
I'm like, this is the way training should be. This is the way training should be. And they use a thing called top-down theory. And so, I'm going to implement that. So it took me 5 years to implement the theory. I had athletes, like the other clubs say, that were doing folk style, and I just don't want to drop them like a top. I didn't want to just drop them.
Yeah.
And so it took me about that long to get kind of, age out or graduate out the athletes that were, I had to slowly transition over. And I think when Alston left, I had one more year left. When Alston left as a 15-year-old sophomore in high school for NMU, we had one more year where I had to kind of transition. And after that, 2-3 years ago, I went full-time Greco, no more folk style.
Okay.
And like I said, when guys say, well, you got guys in high school wrestling, well, those athletes come in the freestyle class, or they set up, or they stay late for a half hour and drill and folk style stuff. But I'll be honest with you, I'm very fortunate that the athletes I get come from high schools with pretty good, decent folk style coaching.
Okay.
They're not coming from places that are just they got good coaches.
But that hasn't been the case forever.
That
hasn't been the case forever, though, right?
No, not really. No, but I'll be honest with you. I'll say that the athletes for us, it's such a low number of athletes.
Yeah.
I can spend a lot of one-on-one time with the athletes, 50, 20 minutes here and there. And I can just, in the athletes, it's weird because the athletes I do kind of attract, they're into wrestling.
Yep.
They're into wrestling.
Yep.
So they're self-productive. Like they'll come to me and be like, Lucas, I'm having a hard time with this. I'm like, your mat return's wrong because you're doing this, So working all that riding, tilting, I mean, so a lot of my guys, if you watch my guys wrestle in folk style, we're a one takedown, and I changed my ways about 10 years ago, but to a takedown release to takedown, one takedown, turn. Sure. In folk style, because of the escape point situation.
Yep.
But with that said, we keep that same mentality in freestyle and Greco as well. So I kind of keep it all transitional.
Yep.
But now lately, like Freddie Sheen, Fenward, my brother, Riverdale's got some good coaching. We get kids from Holman, we got kids from other states, which are full-time Greco, so they don't go back to high school.
Right.
But they did have good high school coaches. Okay. So they came from good programs. They were one organized, two had good technical coaching, and three had good support. So they come from places that they know about wrestling in general. Plus, they're good technically. So I don't have to touch on a lot of that stuff. Yeah. And anyways, most schools in high school have like, you're wrestling good kind of. Oh, they do. Why don't you guys do over there? But like, they do arm bars, or you wrestle Fenward, they're doing cradles. They all have their school moves. Well, the last thing I want to do is interrupt the flow of the team.
Yep.
Yep. So my whole perspective has always been. In fact, when I first started, I just did springtime Greco and freestyle. Didn't do winter folk style. Well, then there was a need for more training for the athletes built in. But my idea has always been like be the subcontractor. Yeah. Like, okay, you go to high school for folk style, come to me for Greco and freestyle in the spring.
Yep.
And then it grew, and then went back to where I kind of started, but now it's year round. Where like they don't need to go to folk style because they got that down good enough. I got to give them something they can't get at high school, which is Greco.
Right.
And this was a better selling product. When every other club's doing folk style, well, why would I sell the same tires they're selling?
Right.
I had to sell some. Which I did, which wasn't like my number one deal, but my brain was like, because I run a daytime business, obviously, but I was like, well, I love Greco and I love this freestyle thing. So let's just sell that a different way. Just sell it correctly.
Yep.
Like this is like I had in their pockets. I'm like, no, I sell Greco like I sell gymnastics. My sister sells gymnastics. My sister sells gymnastics to all these athletes. Like gymnastics helps your soccer, helps your baseball, helps your basketball.
Yep.
Gymnastics helps that stuff. Even if you're never gonna be a gymnast, but it helps that stuff and makes classes and makes money off of it. Well, that's why I went and sold Greco, and then we had the hyper Greco program was kind of a step up on that.
Yep.
And then we just started attracting athletes out that we find and run into over the course of time to go full time. So.
Well, and I know that when I talked to Mark Schultz, he talked a lot about gymnastics and how that was actually harder than wrestling. So as far as coming from gymnastics, I mean, going to anything sounds like it'd be pretty different, pretty easy. But with what you're doing and what you've been talking about now about the, you're not looking to interrupt what they have going on in high school, and which is a lot of times you don't hear that from other coaches. Other coaches are like, "No, you need to be in here," blah blah blah. Not all, but some.
Yeah.
So with what you're doing, and now you see that the coaching is a little more intelligent nowadays as far as who's there, what's going on. Have you thought about then to maybe as a draw to maybe get more? And I'm not trying to say that you need to put pamphlets and flyers out everywhere, but what I'm saying is that maybe you contact a high school coach that is running a decent program. I mean, I've always said that no matter whatever Liam has going on, Greco's important. His hand fighting game and all that stuff is pretty good for folk style. Mm-hmm. Do I think it should end there? No. So have you ever thought about taking your stuff into a high school room to show those kids things that do translate from Greco to folk style to strengthen their folk style?
I've never really reached out personally like that way.
Sure.
When I do talk to coaches, this is what I do. I haven't done anything like advertising wise or actually like physically spend a lot of energy like sending emails out or pamphlets or anything like that.
Yep.
Like in a mess. What I typically do is I go to competitions in high school or youth wrestling, and I'll bump into people and I'll talk to the coaches and I'll schmooze them over, for lack of a better term,
Right.
Because I do have a persona now.
Yep.
Of the last couple of being very frictional and anti this, anti that. And then I'll go there where my wrestlers are wrestling. I'll go where my best wrestlers are wrestling.
Yeah.
And they'll be doing good, hopefully.
Yep.
Hopefully. And then I'll bump into people and start conversations and say, well, this is how Greco helps. This is how Greco helps that. Say, same. This is how the methodology applies to folk style and all that. So I do that, and truthfully, 100% honestly, and like every year in the area of where we are from, the coaches reach out to me, like,
okay,
just me, hey, can you come in and work with our big guys?
Yep.
And they understand, and I'd rather, I think some clubs say, well, they just have sign up for the club. And I know for me, it's always been better for me to go, like you said, go to the schools, like you're saying, and help them at their school. One, I think it's a comfortability factor for the athletes. But two is I have to protect the sanctity or the level of what I'm doing at Combat and wherever.
Yeah.
Because I can't bring in, honestly, I can't bring in a kid. Like we've had high level world medalists come in and even world champions of female wrestling, and they can't do anything. They're just really good. They're just really good basic wrestlers.
Sure.
But they can't do any of the high level stuff.
Right.
They're good at winning matches, which was to prove you don't need it. You don't have to have it.
Right.
But when they want to learn it, they have a long time. It's a long learning curve. And so it's hard for me to bring in a high school kid and throw him in and say, hey, go buy a lot of so-and-so over there. And it's like, the kid's like, whoa, what,
yeah.
This is like, so I'm way better off going there and spending one-on-one time with a few athletes of his level in the room and doing that. So I do that, but it's more of like a face-to-face, door-to-door salesman deal.
Okay.
And I think the smart coaches, I hope that call me, and I do go in about once. I have one school this year, actually, they're like, hey, can we contract you come in like once a week?
Yeah.
For like an hour.
That's awesome.
And I'm like, yeah, I'll come in twice a week,
Yeah.
And like, yeah, because honestly, it's good business too, because it's like, hey, if I can suck in another athlete,
yeah,
you got to go to Fargo, to go to
right.
So Greco Freestyle State, the Northern Plains.
Yep.
Maybe make the dual be great. Do that's it, and then then that grows, and that's how I get at. Honestly, that's a lot of my athlete growth is like you bump into kids, just do face-to-face contact, stuff like that.
Well, Liam, going into Lucas's room, as far as you've wrestled Greco, but not high level, but learning some of the stuff that you learned at Lucas's place. I mean, it's not easy. So, walking into a room, not knowing, especially with what they work on, did you find yourself being a little confused? Like, okay, I don't remember this stuff.
Well, yeah, because mainly it was a lot of not like a basic throw.
Right.
He was really breaking down what it was, and not just what it was, but why you're doing it.
Yeah.
And then you have to go out there and you have to experience it for yourself, and how even getting it done to you, how to land, and almost like in WWE, for lack of better. So like how they need to learn how to land so that there's least amount of, I guess, injury
and stuff like that. Yeah. So it's not a lot of the experience that you'd find in either a freestyle or obviously folk style room. But so as far as the advancement, it's good to hear that obviously that you're recognizing that there's some improvements going on in the state, because we definitely see it. But with the amount of competition now, as far as the competitions that we have in state, obviously aren't going to translate well over to. Like Liam went to Estonia, and he said it's not even close.
No.
Like anything here that we're doing state and even national wise, it's not even close.
We're kind of like we're getting there, but it's like what you always say to a wrestler. You're working hard, but so are they.
Yeah, but they've been doing it their whole lives.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's what it's like. People are like, they talk about. How should we be training for Greco? And we have we actually have a mathematical equation for our athletes. And like, okay, if you're not doing this percentage overseas and hours overseas and companies overseas, you're not going to be successful. And and over the years we've been tweaking it to see where the math falls. And it's and we're pretty much right on it now.
Yeah.
But like that, like it's not really like the drag or the high dive per se. It's a lot of it is the nuance in the culture behind that wrestling. Like if you wrestle a kid from New Jersey in folk style, and then wrestle a kid from Minnesota, Illinois, or Wisconsin, then wrestle a kid from California, it's all folk style. But it's completely different folk style.
Yeah.
Like some guys from New Jersey, and the referee's different.
Yep.
Going one, you're not gonna ride the piss out of you and tilt you, and never get called calling.
Yep.
You come do that. in the Midwest, it's going to be selling crazy and be being bitch at you.
Yep.
You know, so you go out west, man, them guys are flying around the map.
Yeah.
They're fat. They're speed demons. So, and we're in the Midwest, we're clubbing in the head.
Yep.
You know, so it's like, you know, in college, you have Big Ten versus Pac and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So that's all Greco is internationally. And it's hard to explain to people that it is so different. It is so different.
Yeah.
And for me, it comes down to science, because I would go back to gymnastics training. It's like, there's the number one reason the Olympic Committee decided to make gymnastics 16 in the Olympics instead of 13, whatever it was before, wasn't because of abilities and health of the athlete. What they said, that's all lies. The only reason they did it was because at 12 years old, and even before that, they don't have, their brain isn't developed enough to recognize fear or consequence.
Right.
So they'll stand and balance beam and do a backflip and like, oh, I could get paralyzed. Their brain can't conceive that.
Yeah.
About, 15, 16, it's like, crap, I might get hurt here.
Yeah.
Even though some of my boy athletes don't have the ability because they're the way they live life off the mat.
Yeah.
But that's why they did that, because it wasn't fair to athletes from the United States that say were 16 or 17 in the Olympics, and they're competing against a girl from 13 or 10 from Japan. Yeah. And the girl's doing stuff, and she's like, it wasn't athletically, it was mentally. And so to get the Greco, it's the same thing. It's much easier for me to grab a kid at 12 or 13 and teach them these high risk, and you're putting yourself out there in some of these back-arching technical situations. Yeah. It's much easier for me to teach those athletes at that age than it is, I say, 17 and 18. Okay. And I've been doing it a long time, and I have had some amazingly good college wrestlers I worked with, and it just doesn't. Now, they might develop the skill level to do it in training. Somebody like Liam falling for them and working with the action to make it clean so nobody gets hurt. Yep. But I've never seen an athlete yet. If you look at all the best wrestlers, won medals. Yeah. If you watch them wrestle, while they wrestle a style that's indicative of what they're able to compete and do and accomplish in the match at the Worlds. But they cannot wrestle like a foreigner. They can't do Polish. They're not doing body locks left and right. And when we do get a guy that does that, it's one every 30 years, and we actually haven't had anybody at that level, at the Olympic level, wrestling extremely high risk maneuvers, especially in 2022 Greco. You're talking Greco-Roman wrestling in 2005 to 2010 compared to now is completely different. It's completely different.
Different size of guys, the way they move, that kind of thing. You're talking different size of guys, how they're built, how they wrestle?
Technically, the rules change, right?
Yep,
so
correct.
It's like in football, you change the rules, the plays change, right? Yep. So you can't, like in football, they change the rules, so there's more points. You can't hit the quarterback. Yep. You can't touch the receiver. And I get more points. So now guys are throwing more risky passes and stuff, True. Before you could smoke the dudes, they're like, well, not downfield so much over the middle. So in Greco, they changed the rules, up it was the dark days, the ball pole, and the best 2 out of 3 matches, all that crap. Everybody thought it was bad. Yeah. And so now you see the generation of wrestlers, or I say 28, close to 30, trying to compete nowadays, unless you're a foreigner, they're having a hard time because today's wrestling is very high risk, action pace, risk attack ratio winnage. So it's like what we're saying is like if you take risk every 8 to 10 seconds of Greco, you are more likely to win the match by like 99%, like 98%. It's like a crazy high thing. If you sit back and pummel and take no risk, take no risk, say one risk every 3 seconds, you're guaranteed to lose. Because we have forced passivity, we have slip calls, and we have all these things. It's like every single rule we have in Greco and pretty much in freestyle is to protect the guy taking the action to score points, the risk. And in 2005, and between 2005 and 2008 it was, we had all that best 2 out there. We didn't have that effective protected defense. If you didn't get scored on defense, you won. Mm-hmm. You got put down 0-0. You get put down. Then if you could stop the guy scoring, you got a point. You won. And they did something where you get a shot, I get a shot. Then they would go with if you're a red singlet, you go on top first. If you're blue singlet, they had all these stupid rules. Right. But what it did, it created a whole decade of learning not to get scored on. Yeah. Yep. And so the foreigners, corner. So we did that. We adapted quite well. In fact, that's when we did the best. In fact, that's when we did the best in Greco. And so now we got to an era of where it's forced parterre.
Yep.
And you got the more risk you take, even if you're not. And what we're talking about in Greco is if we take risks, let's try to score an arm throw. We have the slip call, the head throw. We have a slip call. We have bylock, all these slip calls. We have the push out point. The new push out rule we can talk a little bit.
Yep.
Is we have all these tools to use at offense in Greco and in freestyle to take all this risk and get protected if it fails on us.
Yep.
And that way now we can earn the passivity point to put the kid down and put the athlete down.
Yep.
So now we have a 1 point lead. And we talk. So there's a lot more match strategy now too. Like now with the push out point and the criteria scoring. You really have to learn how to dictate the match. Like where are you going to score? I do this in freestyle with the girls a lot. We really worry about we talk about the map being very we section the mat off.
Yep.
We don't have any 2-on-1s in the middle. If we're winning, we stay in the middle. If we're losing, we're in the zone. It's just all kinds of things you had to work on.
Yep.
Where you didn't have to do that stuff years ago. It was just push guys to the zone, push guys to the zone.
Maybe throw.
Well, then in 2010, the zone didn't matter because they had the best 2 out of 3, and it was 30 seconds on top. They had the reverse left 4 start. Hell, these goofy rules.
Yeah.
But now there's so much offense being created. There's more moves now. There's more wrestling moves now. There's ever been in Greco. We are literally if you would have took an athlete right now and put him back in 1990s when Greco was pretty much one straight 6-minute match.
Yep.
Where it was 2-3-minute matches and straight 2-minute periods like it is now. There was nobody. There wasn't one human being in the world, the Greco, trying to score off bottom. They might have slipped the gut or something.
Yeah.
But we stand up in Greco. We work on standing up off a bottom twice. We have 5 days a week practice, 3 days in parterre, 2 days on our feet. And we work on getting off a bottom usually every night except for days on our feet. And
I'm not used to seeing that.
Took bronze and twice got off bottom and scored. And it's not because we thought we're cool Americans and score off bottom.
Right.
Because the foreigners started doing it.
Yep.
If they're doing it, why aren't we doing it? We're also folks that
right.
No problem. So we've been doing that. To get for a guy to lift you and you get thrown and in midair capture him and you score the points instead.
Seen that.
That wasn't happening in 1990. So
it's crazy.
There was still the Polish finish and there were still throws like that back in those days, but people weren't defending like they are now.
Right. There's a lot of clips out there that I've been watching that they're really exciting. I mean, it's honestly the guys they're bigger. They're bigger guys. I wouldn't say heavyweight or anything like that as far as weights go, but they are. You're right. They are definitely. They have to create more offense now because especially if you don't want to lose, you actually have to try and do something. Which is fun.
And there's so much incentive to take risks.
Yep.
Because the rules save you if you screw up. Yep. Now, obviously, on your back, there's a slip call. You can't slip your back. There's slip out of bounds. But there's all these other rules for you to take risk. And if you take so we tell our athletes straight out, the first 30 seconds, we must drive that athlete out of the middle. Don't worry about scoring points. The next 30, so the first 30, 20, 30, we're doing that. From that next 30, we're trying to take an arm spin, a drag, something low risk, but high action.
Yep. And
get them in the zone for that push-up point. Get the push-up point, get a few attacks going. Even if they fail, get that passivity.
Yeah.
Then once it's 1-0 in Greco and freestyle, once it's 1-0, that athlete now has to come to you.
Has to.
So instead of pushing him out of the middle now we're pulling him out of the middle. We're going to circle. He comes to us and we circle. Now we can be the bullfighter.
Yep.
When it's 0, we're the bull. When it's 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, now we're a bullfight.
Nice.
And now the points are coming. And all they care about in Greco and in freestyle and in folk style and baseball and all is they want to see points. Yeah. They want to see scoring.
Yeah.
And so now the rules is if you're losing, you got to go get your points.
Yeah.
You got to go.
Totally.
Yeah. And so that's where I think in Greco now you see a lot more dynamic wrestling is what we're calling it, on defense and offense. Because if you get put down, you're like, okay, this is the one shot. If the guy throws me, then that's 8-point tack.
Yep.
So I got to score off of his lift. And how are we going to do that?
Mm-hmm.
So now the Polish finish, which we do a lot of, used to be almost undefendable. Well, guess what happened now? Now guys are defending the Polish finish by locking around the body midair.
Yeah.
So now we got to worry about how to stop that from happening. So it's evolving so fast in Greco.
I'll say it again. It's chess, checkers. It's chess.
Yeah.
So
so that's what we'll talk about Greco is, and that's when was talking about being overseas. It's a 2-on-1's not a 2-on-1. There's so much to it. An underup's not an underup. There's so much to it. And, it's just like, you can't take a gymnast. This is a scientific and factual, back to my neural pathway argument.
Yep.
Is you're not coming in at 8 years old. You're not walking in at 8 years old, 10 years old, and be like, I want to be late. Like, oh yeah, you be a cheerleader.
Yeah.
That's where Greco's at.
Okay.
That's where Greco's at. Now, if Greco goes back to best 2 out of 3, and you can score by depending on bottom, maybe Americans can start wrestling at 23, 24 years old. Yeah. But I don't think so. I think everything evolves. If in folk style, freestyle, if in baseball and soccer, if kids are starting younger and younger, like it or not, in training professionally and trying to achieve, some high level in soccer or whatever sport, well, Greco's right there with it.
Yep.
I mean, there's no, I'm not saying it's more complicated than anything else, but I'm just telling you right now, if our system was so successful, if this was a system doing high school wrestling and college wrestling and then Greco, if it was so successful, well, we wouldn't be talking right now.
Right. Exactly.
And if it didn't work for it didn't work for freestyle. It didn't work for freestyle. Freestyle had to get revamped.
Yeah.
For God's sake. So if it didn't work for freestyle, it worked for Greco.
Yeah.
So that's why when people are like, I'm like, no, you have to.
Yeah.
I mean, just look at the winners do. What do folk style people do? They say, hey, Johnny over there from Kakana or from Iowa State or Iowa is like really good at folk style collegiate wrestling.
Yep.
What did he do? We started wrestling folk style at 3 years old and did all this stuff, blah, 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 blah. Well, that's what I'm going to do.
Yep.
But I'm going to do more of it. That's what happens. In Greco, in the United States, we're like, what did the best guys in the world do? Well, they wrestle Greco year-round, and they start training at about 8 years old. They go 0 to 3, 4 years old, 8 years in gymnastics. They start training Greco at 8, 9 years old. Start competing about 13, 14 in Greco. Don't cut any weight. Focus on work on like 4 major tournaments a year.
Yep.
And they're like, no, let's not do that. Let's wrestle totally the style. That's totally the opposite. Let's not do any of the thing you just said. And let's wrestle $1 million matches a year, and we'll start at 24.
Yeah.
Let's not do it.
Yeah. Well, it was just along with what you said. I mean, a lot of what we do here is just so accelerated and trying to cram things down people's throats when things actually need to be more gradual. Like you said. Go ahead.
I think that's where burnout comes. In folk style, I think the burnout comes just from the cram.
Yeah, I agree.
Don't you think? Like,
I agree.
It's not the wrestling.
Right.
It's just the rest of the smashing of information in the guy's head.
Yes. And because you can compete with your partners in the room. And so I'm guilty of taking Liam to a ton of tournaments in a year, but I think the worst one was just COVID because you just didn't know when it was going to end. But I think, like you said, I think a lot of that development really does happen. I mean, you got to go out and test it. Like you said, 4 tournaments, and you guys have your select tournaments that you do in a year with your River Boys and Blue River Girls. So with that being said, I think that is true. Like you said, we just took what we wanted and threw everything else out the window that everybody else is doing somewhere else. And we're like, now we're going to do this. And then now realizing that and seeing, and we didn't do hundreds and hundreds of tournaments, but seeing that we probably could have dialed it down a little bit and it would have been just the same, if not maybe better, because now you don't have as much, I guess, putting yourself in a situation for mental breakdown as far as losses or not getting what you wanted out of something or disappointing people, in the training.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, and I think I honestly, and probably, I'm not involved with like other sports. I'm guessing is like, there's a lot of, and I'm a parent, I'm a parent.
Mm-hmm.
And I, even with my conviction of how I talk about like, how I believe wrestling should be in competing and stay out of all the other thing I say about high school and all that stuff. Even now, my daughter wrestles. My son's coming along, and believe me, it's always like, well, I'm gonna show her off. I want to go watch her wrestle. I mean, there is that, and it's extremely enjoyable as a parent to watch your athlete do well.
Yep. Correct.
And I can totally understand when you have a kid that's really high level and he's just smoking kids. You just want more and more of it like a drug. I totally understand.
Yep.
I think that's where we go wrong with a lot of athletes, and that's when people talk about like I had this thing about folk style wrestling. I said you look at the best wrestlers in folk style. What are they doing?
Yep.
They're really not wrestling in high school. I mean, they are wrestling in high school, but it's hard to compare St. Paris Graham, Blair Academy, these prep schools that they're flying to dual meets.
Yeah.
compared to Riverdale, Wisconsin, Division 3.
Yep.
Yep. When you're paying kids to wrestle in your high school team, it's a little different kind of system.
It is.
Yep. So when people are like, oh, so-and-so wrestled in high school 4 years, I'm like, okay. Gable's team's wrestled 4 years in high school.
Yep.
Bro, he moved across the country to wrestle for that school.
Yep.
So, I mean, you can't compare it. And so I'm saying, like, everybody has to respect what people are doing.
Yep.
So I think that's where I'm like, I think, everybody's got to know where their athletes at with this. And I think I think it's like anything else. I think it's like, if you have a grocery getter car, you drive that thing every single day. And you have a lot of athletes in high school that are playing football and baseball and track or whatever they do in the spring and wrestling, playing Thursday, playing. Yeah.
Yep.
Probably need some competition.
Yep.
Probably need some.
Yeah.
But if you're an athlete that's like ambition-wise to be Division I or wrestling college or whatever, Olympics and all this stuff, you're like, okay, he's more like a high-performance car, high-performance vehicle.
Yep.
Where high-performance cars don't drive on the road every day.
Nope.
They race on racetracks.
Correct.
And they get torn apart every single race.
Yep.
And they only race every so often.
Yeah.
And so that I believe high-performance athletes should be the same way.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I agree. So you're talking about a rule change before the push-out rule. What's going on? Is that the one that's translating over to everything? Because I think there's one for folk style too.
They got in freestyle, and this is my big folk style thing I want to push for folk style people.
Yep.
I told it to a couple college coaches, and they're like, because I'll tell you what they like about it. But the new rules they started using it last year was, and it was a good rule change.
Yep.
Is if I let's say I'll use freestyle for example.
Yep.
Because freestyle is the biggest change. If I have a single leg up in the air, and I drive and I push you out, right?
Yep.
There's a push point, and then as they push you out, I tackle the other leg, so it's a takedown. So there's a takedown on the push out, right?
Yep.
So 1 point for the push out.
Yep.
Points for the takedown.
Yep. 3.
Action stops for guys that hits. There's no exposure. There could be exposure. It could be a 4-point takedown, I guess, too.
Right.
And you get parterre back in the middle.
Really?
You start in parterre. Yeah, you start in parterre. So it's a lot like folk style.
It is. Yeah.
You get a takedown of folk style out of bounds where you start on the mat.
I don't think so you said that started last year?
It started in Fargo. They didn't call it very well. I mean, it depends on referees. Like, again, depending on referees you got. Yeah, I started, folks. They started last year in Fargo.
I just ordered that NFHS rule book, and just for the high school wrestling and stuff. And obviously, I'm a parent that I wasn't privy to all the rules, but like I didn't know every rule, so I'm sure there's stuff I yelled at a duel or whatever that was might have been a little incorrect. So I'm sure I got some stuff wrong. But now looking at those rules and knowing that now not all officials, not everyone, but there's a lot of bad calls. Wow.
There's a lot of bad calls. And I think officials are just like coaches and athletes. There's guns that are with, are current with information and guys that aren't,
That's just crazy. And again, like I said, I'm probably just as big of an idiot sitting on the side saying something stupid, but just the rules. What's that?
I got called after we were at the Bill Farrell, and they're like, hey, the new rules are if there's a takedown out of bounds and a step out, it's push out or caution, or it could be caution. It might be a caution, actually.
Yeah.
It might be a caution one. Because the rule is more depth. So the rule could also be push out. So if I push you out, it can be caution. It can be 1 and caution 1. Let's say it could be 1. It could be 1 point push out. It could be 1 point push out and caution 1.
Yep.
You turned away. Like you turned away in a single leg or turned away out of a byline.
Yep.
Or you land chest out. It'd be fleeing the mat, right?
Yep.
So it's caution 1 for doing that and the push out. So you get 2 points. If it's a step out, there's always a step up one, obviously.
Yep.
But now you fall down, you get to 2 or 4 or 5.
Right.
4. And you start in Greco and freestyle. Well, we're at the Bill Farrell, and I thought you were going to start calling this. And they're like, oh, we're not. So I'm just screaming bloody murder, right? like, the new rules. And they're like, we ain't starting those yet. I'm like, oh, well, just disregard all my bitches for the last 6 minutes.
Never mind. Forget it. So what the way you described the first part, a question on that. So you said that if they say like whatever, they go to a double leg and you go belly down, that's a caution.
Yeah. No, 1 point. Well, it could be 1. It could be 1 point step out, 1 point. No, you only get the takedown or the caution.
Okay, were you talking about push out then? If it was a guy, the caution goes to the guy pushing someone out.
No. Like if I'm pushing you, let's say I shoot a shot on you style, or let's say I'm doing egg and Greco, and you step out and then turn away from me to flee the hold, kind of like to run away.
Yep.
It'll be one step up 1 point for costing fleeing the hold.
Okay, now I got you.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you'd always get, if the guy falls down, you'd always get the most valued
point out of it.
Points.
Yep.
Another adaptation in Greco, which is just recent, which I think last year as well, though, and just is catching up, is there's no more control needed. Greco was a lot like folk style before, where the only way you can score points is all your risk actions, like say a body lock, a drag, a takedown. You had to maintain risk through the action. Couldn't let go of the guy.
Yeah.
You know, where freestyle, you could just like fall on your own 2 feet. You could always fall down and you just not have control and you can score your 2 or 4, whatever.
Right.
Now Greco's like that too. So now in Greco, you could like throw a guy, let go of him, and he would roll through the mat twice and be whatever points, because you don't have to go. You have to, which honestly, I don't like.
Mm-hmm.
I like the rule in freestyle where you don't need control, but in Greco, I like the fact you need control. I thought it was a good difference between the two styles.
Yeah.
I thought in Greco it forced more action. I think it forced more correct action.
Agreed.
Now you see guys let guys go. It's really because they can't control the action correctly.
Yeah.
So I don't like it. So yeah.
So with the development that you guys have had and the obviously rule changes and the way that you guys are able to keep up, do you see yourself trying to expand this at all? Or are you just going to try and it's just going to be a hidden gem kind of, and I'm not saying thousands of locations or anything like that where it's, combat everywhere, but I mean, one more to spread a little bit.
Well, the problem with it is like my daytime job.
Yep.
Is like I build a transmission today. Well, anybody that runs transmission, so it's a family trade, been around since the 20s.
Yeah.
Because the job, so we have. So the problem with the trade is this: is I have to build transmissions. If I teach somebody to build transmissions, well, he just starts building his own damn transmissions. There's no damn job. He's like, well, I can make all the money, and so it's why, unless he doesn't want to work. And there are shops that hold transmission builders, they just pay by the hour and all that. Yeah. It does happen, but if the trade is getting so complex that the human being building the transmission is worth so much money.
Sure.
There's no reason to work. So they're doing in my trade, daytime trades, they're hiring, like say, women or all kinds of people, and then teaching that person to only do one part of one job, like in a semi line.
Yeah.
So they'll say, well, your job is to put the bolts in. Your job is to do this. So nobody knows how to build a whole transmission.
Sure.
So that's what they're doing at some shops. Well, in Greco, it's the same thing. Like, it'd be awfully hard for me to grab somebody, like, hey, let's start in their location. I need to work 5 days a week, travel around the world, learn all stuff, and be up to date.
Yeah.
I think there are guys like that, but then you start their own club.
Yep.
And wants identity. Is there somebody out there that would want to buy into the identity and do all that? Maybe. I just haven't found anybody that is that into it.
I guess I shouldn't say you don't have multiple. I mean, you have Kale over by Ringers.
We have Bill. And there's other people like me. We have Zach. We have Paulson up at the Pinnacle. We have other guys around the country. He's doing Greco stuff. But I think, and I'm just being factual, and I love all those guys. It's like, but there's nobody that's willing to do what we're doing.
Yeah.
And saying, what we're going to do is hyper focus on Greco.
Yep.
And we are going to promote athletes to train at other clubs for folk style.
Good. Yep.
They need to get, and we're going to do this. We're traveling internationally, and we're going to work with a very small clientele.
Yep.
Honestly, my whole goal as my personal selfish goal is I am moving more towards the personal coaching scene.
Okay.
The reason being is there's so much, and I think maybe other coaches and clubs don't really feel this. Maybe they don't. I don't know.
Right.
But for me, there's so much work invested into an athlete just to hand them off.
Sure. Sure. Yep. I get it.
And disrespect anybody. It's just like for us, like me and Austin are really super close. And we're so close. It's like, even though we don't see each other every day, we still talk on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
We're still talking about like weightlifting and dieting or the goals and going through the plan for next month. So I really enjoy the management in relationship with the athlete.
Okay.
Over running 40 kids in a room.
Sure.
I'd rather work with 2 dudes, 2 girls, 1 girl, 1 boy, and have a 5-6 year goal and go through all the ups and downs of that.
Yeah.
Then to have 40 kids. I had 40 kids. We were running 5-6 classes a night. We were doing all that. We had state champions in college, and we still have that stuff. I just never. It always felt like just showing. It just didn't. I liked it, but I didn't feel like I was creating anything amazing. Now, when I'm with one-on-one with an athlete, we have a very small group of athletes, and we're totally invested.
Yep.
It's like we're special forces. We're in the foxhole together. Like, bro, if one goes down, we're all staying until we die.
Yeah.
Yep. And so it's a different environment. So for me, the location thing like that, I'd rather, like you said, use Bill Cawley, use Zach and those other guys as what we're doing, and build it through there. But for me, I'm graduating actually to smaller and smaller groups and then more individualistic training, more of a personal coach.
Okay.
Because, I think for me, it's like there's so much. You're involved in sports. There's so much work invested into one athlete.
Yes.
At a high level.
Yes.
And I'll be honest with you, high level athletes are like big bucks and wild animals. Very dominant animals do not want to be around other dominant animals.
Right.
Like one elk just wants to be all by himself and have all the herd.
All the ladies to himself. That's right.
Right. And the high level athletes over the years, when I have changed my rules or requirements to build higher level athletes in Greco and women's freestyle, the right people left and the right people stayed.
Yep.
And the right people showed. And after talking to those athletes, like, hey, why are you doing this? They're like, because I'm not here to screw around. I'm here to try and get in and get out. I'm not. It's like Liam probably. I doubt Liam wants to go back and train with a fifth grader.
I'm good. Yeah.
No high schooler. I mean, are you in high school now, Liam?
Yeah. I'm in ninth grade.
You're in high school. High schoolers don't want to train with junior high guys.
Yeah.
Junior high guys, high schoolers.
Sure.
And so if you're a high level athlete, you don't want to spend your night helping the newbie with a half Nelson. So not that that does not have to happen. It should happen.
Yeah.
But majority,
that's not going to be your training.
Yes. I mean, in anything dominant knows the safety. No, they say there's safety in numbers.
Yep.
Yeah. If you're one deep,
yeah.
If you're the one if you're the prey, there's safety in numbers. If you're the predator, there's not safety in numbers. You got to be by yourself.
So your philosophy is like others. But you're not looking. So I think the phrase is buy in, right? And a lot of parents, they're like, yeah, we buy in, but they're just buying the t-shirt, for wherever. They're just buying the shorts. You're talking about buying in. Like, you're here. This is what we're doing. This is it. Like, this is what we want. You don't want the half steppers. I get it. It makes sense with what you're trying to create. It's not like you're trying to exclude people. It's inclusive, but you need to make sure that you're exclusive to what you're training and your goals, and you still give them the freedom. You understand that they're in high school, number one, that they may have other aspirations and things that they want to do. So you get that. And I think that's what a lot of people miss, is that they think that, they're just doing great. That's all they're doing. It's like, no, not really,
and I think I really get mad at that. But I'm like, the requirement to be here is to train Greco.
Yes.
Like, I honestly believe it's like, well, it makes you better, period. I mean,
correct.
I think the things we're doing in the training of Greco, like what we do, like the things you have to do in Greco is like weight training. It's like, well, lifting weights is good for everything, right? Well, we're picking human bodies up like 30 times a night.
Right.
I don't give a crap. I don't give a crap what it is. So stuff like that, and we do attract the athletes. Obviously, I like Greco.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
But my girls got to train Greco, but they're freestyle athletes.
Yep.
But if I have an athlete that comes to me and says, well, I just want to be a high school wrestler and I don't want to do any Greco freestyle. I don't want to compete at
worlds and all that stuff.
You know what? There's a lot of good clubs out there for you to go to, because there's a different environment for you.
Yep.
Because first of all, I don't want to put all this time and energy into an athlete and thinking that their goals are to be on the world team. And they're like, not really, And I totally respect that.
Yep.
It's just that we have a much better understanding of each other and relationship if we just don't get involved,
Yeah.
Like if an athlete comes to me and says, I want to be an Olympian, I want to be a world team member, I want to learn, I want to learn what Greco is, or blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, this guy has 2 left feet. This girl can't even climb the rope.
Yep.
I'm all in. I don't care.
Yep.
In fact, it's better. It's like, okay.
A lot to teach there.
And I don't know how many times I've had athletes come to me. And I like to mention one athlete, but I won't mention his name.
Yep.
he came to me as a youth wrestler. This is back in the folk style days. He came to me as a youth wrestler. I'm like, we have to wrestle freestyle Greco. He's like, I hate it. I'm like, we only hate it because you haven't heard it. You know?
Yeah.
So he came to me because the school he was at didn't get him the time of day. And his dad was a really successful wrestler in high school. His dad was mad. He's like, hey, this is back when I was first started.
Yep.
I had like one section of rock hard wrestling mat, crap,
Yeah.
grapple,
Yep.
And it started from there. Anyways, he started in kindergarten, somewhere in there, and he ended up being one of my most successful wrestlers ever. And he's highly successful in Division I down in our sport.
Yep.
And, it was like nobody paid him any mind because he was nothing physically, And through the years, everybody was like, nah, he never was very successful. And then all of his freshman year, he just came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Well, to them, I knew he was good.
Yep.
And nobody liked him. But I was like, yeah, no, I got more, and I brag about this kid all the time during my daily practices, probably too much.
Yep.
So I'm like, I get more satisfaction or validation to myself. Okay, I know I'm doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
When that kid made it,
Yep.
And won a state title, went undefeated, all these things, and doing really good now, and turned his life around. Everything's doing great. He's got a great family, all the wise. But
yeah,
it's like, yeah, I took the guy to know we wanted. I mean, the best.
Made him, yeah. Yep.
And all through relationship. And really, a lot of coaches could have done it, but I got lucky enough to have him.
Yep.
But that for me is like what it's all about. So people come to me like, oh, I just had a thing with another club coach kind of, and he's like, oh, you just get the good wrestlers after the good. I'm like, I'm not out here kidnapping these kids,
Oh, man.
They have to pay me. They're paying me, actually paying me quite a bit of money to come here. So
yeah,
I don't know what you're talking. In fact, I'm like, no, I get kids all the time in a club, and right now that are not developed yet.
Yeah. Yep.
They're not. When I got Austin Nutter, he didn't qualify for the U State tournament.
Mm-hmm.
He couldn't even qualify for the U State tournament.
Yep.
And he started coming to me for Greco and all this.
And now he's one of your top athletes.
He's a baseball player, so I said, nah, I don't want you. But no, I get those athletes, and so for me, it's like, that's the big thing. It's like, it's like you said about people like, oh, they do Greco. Yeah, we're doing Greco every single day, and we're promoting that. But the athletes come to me, we're training Greco every day. And if they're in high school, we pull them off to the side. We make sure, because what good is it for me as a business to throw an athlete on a high school wrestling mat with a college wrestling mat in folk style, and they're not successful?
Yep. I agree.
And that's a horrible sales pitch,
But
so,
honestly, with that being said, I mean, there is validation in what you're doing. I mean, like you said, that Alston Nutter, I think a lot of guys know who he is now. A lot. I mean, just in the wrestling world alone, and he's one of your top athletes coming out of there. Let alone Benji Peak. There's some of your female athletes too. So I think there's a lot of validation in what you are doing. Number one, and again, that's why I didn't want to, when the email came out this year, I just kind of said that we're going to be taking away from someone else that could be in the room. If he's only coming once a week or once a month or whatever, once every 3 months, that's not good enough. I mean, we want to make every single one. And obviously, like I said, I don't want to waste someone else's time. So the guy that he runs into, now he has to play catch up. That's horrible. You've made so much progress already with an athlete. Now you got some new kid coming in that's been in once, and I didn't want to do that because of what you guys do and the progress and the intricacy that you guys deal with in your room. So I think that's the biggest, what I take away from it. But I think it's important for all of them. And I think it's great that you are understanding, and you have always been this way, but that you understand that these kids have other goals and that you're trying to fit this all in with that, and understanding that they're not just robots trying to win world titles. They are humans, number one, first and foremost.
I think the one thing I tried doing is I think what happens with a lot of kids is they get they get told, hey, high school state champion, college, all this. And so my big thing is just, I'm over here saying, hey, you could be a world champion. Yep. Hey, you could be an Olympian.
Right.
But if you want to do it Greco, I think this is the best way.
Yep.
And if you want to do women's freestyle, I think this is the best way. And so I don't discount other ways. I'm just saying I'm promoting what we're doing.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And he comes to me and says, I have an athlete right now. I can't really describe him too much because he knows who I am. He's like, Lucas, I want to wrestle in college, folk style. I'll probably still do Greco, but I want to do this, that, and the other thing. I want to do these other things in high school. I'm like, bro, tell me how we make this work.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're a great athlete. You're great. You're a great athlete.
I got you back.
And then he's like, and so we made it work.
Yep.
Dad called me. He's like, and I'm like, I was kind of bitching at the kid for missing practice. He's really like, I'm like, hey, I want to keep him. He's good to have.
Yep.
He's not a distraction. I just got to know where we're going with this.
Sure.
We all on the same page. We had that conversation about a year or two ago.
Mm-hmm.
And evidently it's been fine. It's never been fine.
Yep.
You know, because I don't want to be like, I just want to make sure I'm like, hey, I'm trying to work my ass off for this kid to be the best in the world at this. And he's like, well, this is around. I'm like, oh, you're 16, 17 now? Okay, what do you have to say? And then we go from there.
Yep.
You know,
right on.
So that's a lot of it.
So what do you guys have coming up for competitions next?
Well, the kid, we just got that from Sunsville. Nobody's really available. I think ready as only juniors.
Yeah.
Just junior class. So they're not ready to Bill Farrell. I feel. We have Gunner, which is the oldest one.
Yep.
But he has a shoulder issue. Just a small EC thing. So, but it's like
yeah.
You know, I said like
Gunner Hamer.
Going to competition-wise back to Sweden to Sunsville.
Okay.
That's a good competition.
Okay.
There's no training available, but we're going to stay after and train with some guys there at the local club. And then we'll come back. And then in February we have to decide between Denmark, Hungary, or Croatia. I really want to get back to Hungary. Starting in February, our typical plan is to go back more Eastern Bloc. So like Tata, Hungary, or Croatia, Serbia.
Okay.
Moldova, Romania. And then we come, and that's with like the seniors with Alston, Benji, all those guys.
Okay.
And then we come for the April domestic schedule. And then we go back overseas in June. And then the guys not on world teams do Fargo. The guys on world teams just trade.
Yep.
Get ready for worlds. You know?
Okay.
And take a break and everybody gets 6 weeks off after work. Their last term is worlds.
Yep.
They take 6 weeks off after that. And if it's Fargo, 6 weeks after that. We have a 6 week break.
Okay. Well, yeah. I'm going to be watching for some events that whether it's worlds or, you know, just like cross seas too. Cause I mean, a lot, do you find that, so like here, you know, you wind up going to a tournament here, you go to a tournament there, you go to a tournament there, you're wrestling so much, you wind up seeing all the same guys. Does that help? Does that happen on the world side with those guys doing Greco?
Kinda.
A little bigger mix.
Mean, it depends, you know, it's so I'll say it's about equal to the United States.
Okay.
Like if we say it was, you know, it's probably the same thing. Like you'll see some guys that are at a few tournaments, and then you're trying to find the really good guys. So you know, kind of find tournaments where they're going to be at stuff.
Yep.
So it depends. Anything else, you know, it's like if you go to Super 32, you can get good wrestlers. You know.
Yep.
So we try to find 32 Europe at the right time of year.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to end it on this. If there's another event coming up, I definitely want to talk to you some more later on, especially once we get through the season here more, because there's got to be a couple of events coming up that guys are going to be competing at. So I'll be in touch with you again. But with that being said, where do you plan on? Do you guys do any camps? Do you wind up having a camp that people can sign up for, like an open camp, or do you still keep things kind of tight?
The 2 camps that open to the public are in March for we call it pre-World Team Trial training.
Yep.
Usually end of March, beginning of April.
Okay.
We got that coming up. I'll start pushing that probably here in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
And then we usually open 10, 15 spots for that, 20 spots for that out of 50.
Okay.
45. And then we do a camp pre-Fargo. Same thing about that's a little less. There's more like 10 athletes with about a 30 cap in there.
Okay.
And we also, but the only thing we do offer, which is pretty well during COVID, was really big. It was stint training because everybody was online, everybody was at home. Is to come over for like a week or two and train.
Oh,
you know,
yeah, yep.
You know, a little weekend stint.
Yep.
You know, and week stint, you know, because that was popular in COVID, and it's still kind of popular for some kids. They have a school break. You know, some guys doing these trimesters, they have a different kind of break schedule and stuff like that.
Yep.
But,
Yep. Right on. Cool. Well, I appreciate you sitting down with us. A little more education, because, like I said, that episode we had that was pretty bad. We couldn't name anybody. Now we know almost everything. But I still want to stay in the loop.
I'll say this on that. We'll go back to that quick. We're gonna go it's really weird because it seems like the only information you can get on anything is like it's on social media. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like we have 5 Point Move by Tim Hands at the Greco-Roman specific source. All he does is that.
I don't think anybody knows that. 5 Point Move, it's called 5 Point Move Podcast.
He's got a podcast. He's got well, there's a website with all the articles. He writes articles.
Okay. Good.
Yeah. He covers everything. Yeah. If you got to follow Timmy Hands, 5 Point Move, he's on all social media, but he has a website too.
Okay.
But anyways, with that, you get all the Greco-Roman information you need from him.
Yep.
But with that said, nowadays, if you're not on social media, it's hard because a lot of guys, that's where all the information is.
Yeah.
The problem with Greco, I'll be honest with you, in the United States with this information problem is there's so far few between competitions.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of write up on Greco because there's not a lot. We got the Bill Farrell coming up.
Yep.
Then we had Worlds. I mean, there's only a handful of things to write up on Greco.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of times for them to write up on us.
So check out.
A lot of times they make fast.
Yeah. So go check out 5 Point Move website. What's it? Tom Hands?
Yeah.
Tim Hands.
Yeah.
Go check out 5 Point Move for more Greco information. That's all it is Greco. And I knew of that because I've listened to Dennis on there and stuff too. And I'm gonna have Hall on here in the next couple of weeks, hopefully. I totally appreciate you coming on. And again, we'll just end the episode here. What do you have planned? Anything coming up? Hunting?
Working and hunting. Busy time of year. Yeah, we're trying to enjoy it's Wisconsin. Trying to enjoy the greatest part of Wisconsin.
Well, kill something for me. All right, man. Well, you have a good night. I'll get out of here, Luke.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you bet. Bye.
Bye-bye.
That was
fun.
Fun.
There you go.
Yeah,
Just a little bit of.
I think the one question I didn't really get to ask him was in like the span of 10 years, right? What weight class was probably the most successful for the U.S.? Because I think that would be.
So he did explain a little bit in there. He did explain that the more successful weights have been the heavier weights.
Really?
Yeah, the bigger weights.
I feel like it would be because you see this in folk style too. I remember a while ago when we watched Who's Number One, and it was always the lighter weights just going at it, right? They're getting in these crazy positions where you're like, who's actually...
Was that more foreign guys, though? I bet that was more foreign guys, though.
Who's number one?
Yeah.
So I feel like it'll always be like the lighter weights that'll give you more of like a show.
But that's American, though. You know what I'm saying? So we may not have had too many guys in here, especially when you're talking Greco.
Yeah.
Obviously we're talking to Lucas about Greco, but we've always had Hancock.
Yeah.
But look at he named a couple guys that were bigger guys that used to be good at Greco, but then switched.
Yeah.
And one of them was Gable Steveson.
Oh yeah.
He switched. So that right there was that was a big loss, I'm sure, to those guys if they found out about it. But
I think the coolest thing is like how he talks about like how his club is kind of like how you said it's kind of like the diamond in the rough almost.
Pretty much.
But I think Greco itself is like that iceberg, where it's like you're just barely scratching the surface sometimes with these clubs where they give you good things to use.
Sure. Yep.
But you're never truly getting that full scope.
You only have a piece of the puzzle.
Exactly. Yeah, unless you go overseas for a while and they teach you like, hey,
Lucas is the closest thing that you'll get to the complete puzzle.
Yeah.
The closest thing. He's the only one other country that does what he's doing.
And sometimes he doesn't not all the time, but sometimes he might be like, oh, yeah, that's new.
Right. But and that's the thing though. That's wrestling intelligence is.
Yeah.
But he also understands that he knows that these kids need to translate everything, like he said, to folk style because they're all trying to get state titles, which that's something else we'll talk about as far as girls and the girls wrestling being folk style in this state and everybody else doing freestyle. We're the only ones behind the curve, but that's about 12 minutes or 10 minutes of extra content for the folks. I think you and I are going to end it right there. So that way we can go get ready for the week. So thanks everybody. Hopefully you enjoyed this podcast. Hopefully you enjoy future ones. This has been Vision Quest Podcast. Brad Crook and Liam Crook out.
All of our episodes are brought to you by Appleton Tattoo, located at 117 South Appleton Street in Appleton, Wisconsin, right off the main drag on College Avenue. You can't miss them. I've had some work done. I have a Celtic cross that covers my back that was done by Jason. We're not done yet. Jason Winans and crew, the artists that he have there, those guys are the best in the Fox Valley. They are definitely one to go to if it's something that you've just been kind of throwing around. They'll make you feel comfortable. It's a very clean environment, very nice crew, and very willing to get done whatever you need done when you need it done. You can message them on Facebook. I know they're on Facebook. You can give them a call at 920-604-8289 and get in touch with Jason Winans and crew at Appleton Tattoo, located again in Appleton, Wisconsin at 117 South Appleton Street, right in Appleton. Very flexible hours, great crew, clean environment again. I would not send you anywhere else except for these guys. Appleton Tattoo.